All right. So basically what I'm hoping to cover in this workshop is the individual development plan tool that is on, it's linked on our website from Science Careers. I want to show you how to register for that, how to fill out the exercises and interpret your results. There's some really neat things that they do to show you information based on your responses. And then also I want to show you the development resources on the Postdoc website, so you will know where to find those and get assistance. So the National Postdoc Association identifies 6 core competencies. These are skills that they believe as a postdoc you need to develop these skills in order to have an independent career, whether that's in research and academics or working in industry or wherever. And so discipline-specific conceptual knowledge, research skill development, communication, professionalism, leadership and management, responsible conduct of research, very big, very broad competency areas. And so some of these you may have developed in graduate school. Some of them you may have picked up in other jobs that you've had before. Some of these you probably still have some work to do developing. The goal of the postdoc experience, though, is of course to prepare you to be an independent professional, whether that's in research or somewhere else. And so these are all things that you need to be competent at in order to do that. So you can see on the there's a link there to the National Postdoc website where they talk a little bit more about each of these competencies, and they break these down into subcategories that are more specific areas that you may want to look at. So how do you use those core competencies to develop your own career and be active in your own mentorship? The IDP gives you a framework that helps you to organize your thinking, helps you to determine what is important to you, what is something that you're interested in doing for the rest of your career, and take those assessments, take those career options, set some goals, and create a plan that helps you going forward to manage your own mentorship. So you're not dependent on a principal investigator to manage your mentorship. You're doing that for yourself. And that's better not only for you, it's also better for your mentor, because it means that instead of them being solely responsible for mentoring you, you can take some of that burden off of them. That means they can give you more oversight in the actual research that you're doing. So the link is at the bottom of this slide to the My Science Careers IDP tool. If you want to go ahead and click on that and have that going in a different browser window, you're welcome to, or if you want to just listen and go back later and do that, you can. I started to tell you, please don't do that until after the presentation, but then I realized that if I were sitting in your seat, there's no way that I would not go ahead and go to the website and start poking around during the presentation, so I will not fault you if you choose to do that yourself. So you'll scroll down to the bottom, you'll click First Time Here, assuming that it is your first time here, and you'll enter all your information, get signed up for your account. Fairly straightforward, the process for doing that. And then you're going to go through 3 different sets of assessments. There's a skills assessment to look at your skills and knowledge based on the core competencies and allow you to self-assess where you think you stand on a scale of 1 to 5. Also an assessment of your interests, things that you want to be doing every day in your career, and maybe things that you would rather not do in your career. And there's nothing wrong with that. We all like to do different things, and so there are definitely different things for different people that you may not want to have as part of your ongoing tasks. So the first assessment is scientific skills, and you can see the menu right over here that shows you where those assessments are. You'll click on the tab that's marked My Assessment right next to Quick Tips on the page. That'll show you the actual questions. And once you do that, it will guide you through skills, interests, and values over there on the left-hand side. Those don't take all that long to finish. I would say, in an hour or so, you can probably get through a lot of that, and even some of the career and goal setting stuff as well. Don't rush through it though, take your time. And one suggestion that they make that I think is worth highlighting is that you make sure you use the entire scale when you're going through these assessments. So don't rate yourself all 4s and 5s, or if you're more self-critical, all 1s and 2s. If you use that whole scale, it will get better results as as you folks who work with data will certainly understand. So they do something really cool after you get finished with those assessments. They take some career paths and they match you with those based on the answers that you gave in those assessments. So in terms of both your skills and your interests, it will provide you with a percentage to which your responses match responses given by people who are successful in these career paths. So you can see for me, I have science education for non-scientists came up with a big 85% match, which is great because that is a big part of what I do. So yours are going to be different based on your responses, but these will show you some career paths that you may or may not have considered before. Even if you are settled on the career that you're going to pursue, this may just open up some other ways of thinking for you about other things that you might want to include in your career that maybe you hadn't thought of before. So you can show it gives you a whole bunch of different career path matches and matches you based on your skills and your interests. If you click on those percentages, it will show you a breakdown of the skill matches that you have with that particular career path. This can be extremely helpful. For example, if, let's say, the career path that you have chosen that you know is the one that you want, let's say it's a little bit further down the list, like you don't match up quite as closely with that career path as you would like. Assuming for a moment that you have not just chosen a career path that is really not a good fit for you, assuming that it is just that you still need to develop a few additional skills, you can click on these columns and it will show you the rating that you gave yourself and the rating of somebody who is an expert in that field. Now you'll notice that these are separated by the core competencies from the NPA, so scientific knowledge and research skills are the first two, and it's also broken down by these subcategories. So you can go through this list and you can determine, okay, I'm doing pretty well in a lot of these areas, but it looks like I might need to improve a little bit. I might need to get a few more skills in statistical analysis and a broad-based knowledge of science. Knowing that you need to develop in those areas will be helpful in a moment when we go to the resources website on the Postdoc Scholars page, because it will show you where you need to look for resources that can help you. So once you've explored that career fit, you'll go into this career exploration section. So there's a section where you can read about careers. So it will just give you descriptions of different career paths that you might not have considered. It'll also give you information on attending events. So depending on your responses, they will suggest some events that you can go to. There's also a place in here under your notes where you can log meetings that you go to. So you can keep track of those, and that can help when you're putting together applications or personal statements. It can help you to remember those meetings that you were at in the past. It also gives you suggestions for talking to people, and this is one that I think is really helpful to highlight, because I think this is something that a lot of people, not just postdocs, but a lot of people in general, don't do to the full extent that they could. So they'll give you suggestions for ways that you can set up an informational interview. So maybe there's someone who works in a position that you are interested in, or someone who might potentially at some point in the future be in a position to hire you. This will give you some tips for how to start a conversation with that person, to set up a low pressure interview situation where you're not asking for a job necessarily, you're just getting their feedback and their input on your career plans and how maybe their perspective on how that career path might fit into your life and how you might be able to fit into that career path as well. And then finally, there's a section to choose a career path, and this one asks you to actually write out what your career goals are. It's very powerful to actually put those ideas down on paper, to actually commit those goals to a tangible medium, even if you consider the computer a tangible medium. But that takes it an extra step beyond just something that you're thinking about or considering. It's something that you've actually written down somewhere that you can refer back to. So the next section after career exploration is creating a plan. So they're going to give you 3 different areas where you can write goals and then go back later and monitor your success against those goals. So your career advancement, your skill goals, and your project goals. Career advancement, maybe you have a 5-year, a 10-year plan for where you want to be in your career. Maybe you don't, and that's fine. But this is a place where you can start to flesh out some of those goals and at least get specific about what you would like to have as part of your career. For skills, you can set goals to do development of skills in particular areas. You can set goals to, maybe I'm going to go to a conference in my discipline to get more up to date on the very latest things that are going on. Maybe I'm going to seek out workshops that I can attend online. Maybe I'm going to read a book that's going to help me in a particular area. You can mark those goals, you can give them completion dates, and then the system will actually send you reminders. So they will email you to ask you, hey, how's it going? You said you were going to do these development projects this month. How's that going? And so that's a good way to keep yourself on track too, because again, if you are like me, I know it's very easy to set a goal, it's very easy to put it out there. The following up part is the hardest, and so that helps to have them send you some of those reminders. And also project goals, if there are specific projects you're working on that you want to track, you can put those into the system as well, and it will keep track of those for you as well. If you have spent much time in the business school side of the world, you've no doubt been exposed to SMART goals. That's something that they recommend that you think about as you're writing your goals. And I think it's worth mentioning here as well, you want your goals to be specific, not just that I want to improve at knowledge of science. Find specific areas where you want to improve and be very clear about what those areas are. Is it measurable? Can you determine whether or not you even achieved the goal? You know, I want to build my skills in a certain area, not necessarily a measurable goal. You want something that you can put a scale to and say, yes, I either achieved this or I didn't. Action-oriented, did you specify the action you're going to take? What are you actually going to do to reach that goal? And also, is it realistic, of course? You know, you may say you want to win the Nobel Prize in your field. Great goal. I certainly hope that you get there, and please remember Baylor fondly when you do. But let's maybe set goals that are something that's going to be achievable in the time frame that you've set. And speaking of time frames, the T is time bound. You need a deadline for your goals. If you don't set a deadline for your goal, then it's just something that you can keep pushing off. But set a deadline and stick to it, and that will help you to meet those goals. So after goal setting, the IDP tool takes you through a section on your mentoring team, and they give you the opportunity to name mentors and talk about those mentors' role in your career development. A couple of tips that I would just add here. One is to think beyond your principal investigator. You know, that person certainly is a mentor of yours in a formal sense, and they're a great person, they're a great resource, and they're a great person for you to talk about your career plans with. But think outside that box. There are probably other people who are either in your life already or who you could make contact with who might be able to mentor you from a different perspective. Maybe you are planning on going into academics and you know of someone who took a different career path. They work in industry even though they have a background similar to yours. That's a person who could help you see things from a different perspective. They could help you examine the decisions that you're making about your career and make sure that you're considering all the information that's at your disposal. Also think about people who can mentor you in other ways besides professionally. Having a personal mentor, somebody who you really respect the way that they go about their life, maybe someone who is almost a spiritual leader to you is someone who you can definitely consider a mentor as well. And so you can mark those people down here in the tool as well and keep track of those people and their roles. The next tip I would give you is don't be afraid to start the conversation and then to continue the conversation. If you don't ask someone to be your mentor, they are never going to be your mentor. You need to be willing to take that first step and go out on a limb a little bit and make contact with someone to ask them questions. The secret to this, because I know this can be uncomfortable, but the secret to this is that people love being sought out as an expert. People love being sought out to give help, to answer questions. Most people. And so if you know someone who you admire and you think that they would be a good mentor, I think you'll be surprised if you go to them and say, you don't even have to use the word mentor. You can just say, listen, I'm making some decisions about my career right now. I'm in this postdoc program, and it, of course, is a brief time, and I need to be thinking about where I want to go after this. And I was wondering if you and I could have coffee sometime and talk about how your career developed, and let me ask some questions about your perspective. It's as easy as that. And so it doesn't have to be a big formal thing that, with with any kind of an agreement written up or anything. It can be just that informal. Another important part then, once you've had that conversation, is to stay in regular contact with that person. One tip that I heard before, a person told me that he has 4 or 5 different people that he considers mentors. He said only a couple of them actually realize that they are his mentor, but he considers all of them mentors. And what he does is once a week, he has a time blocked off in his calendar to reach out to one of those people. And he just goes in order down the list. And so that way, he says that way I'm not beating one person down by constantly pinging them, constantly being right there asking questions. But every week I still get to be in contact with someone who has a real positive influence on my life and who it really helps me to talk to. So I think that's a good idea as well, to help you stay in contact with the folks who you've chosen as your mentoring team. Whether you have 1 or whether you have 8, it's just important to make sure you're in regular contact with them, because these types of relationships, as I'm sure you've experienced before, these types of relationships grow over time. They become deeper and more fulfilling the more that you get to know the person. So I really recommend that you stay in regular contact. So at this point, we've been through the assessments, we've been through the career exploration, we've identified some areas where you might need to develop your skills a little bit more. And so, well, what do we do now? Where do I go with that information? Well, we have information on the Postdoc Scholars website that can help you with a couple of different areas. The first one that I'll point out is this one, that is a form that you can use for meetings with your PI or with your formal mentor. This has places where you can write down what are everyone's goals right now, what are everyone's expectations for what's going to happen in the short term, the medium term, and the long term. It lets you lay out a timeline for how you're going to go about the projects that are being considered, and it helps you to just make sure that everybody is on the same page as far as their expectations. When we were doing the research leading up to building this office, we were looking at what makes postdocs happy, what makes them successful, and the thing that we found over and over was a really important factor in postdocs being happy and being productive and successful is a match of expectations between them and their mentor, and the postdoc feeling like their expectations were being met. Well, how can you do that? There's a couple of different ways you can do it. You can just hope that happens. You can hope that everybody's on the same page, and you can hope that the experience meets your expectations. But a much better way to do that, a much better way to manage everyone's expectations, is to have formal conversations about it. Because if there is a difference of expectation, while that might not be the most comfortable conversation in the world to have, it's a lot more comfortable to have that conversation now than it is to have that conversation 6 months or a year from now. So we really recommend that you have these formal meetings with your advisor. So there's 2 different forms that are on the website that's linked here. The first is an orientation meeting agenda for kind of a first, when you first arrive in the lab, getting everybody on the same page as you're getting started. The second is for a recurring meeting agenda, and that one's for more of a check-in to say, well, where are we as regards all these goals that we set, these projects that we said we were going to do, are all of those still relevant? Has the science maybe taken us in a different direction and we want to go a different way? Those are both on the website. And so we recommend that you have that orientation meeting as soon as possible after you start, and then that you have those follow-up meetings regularly on whatever schedule works for you and your PI, whether that's annually, once a semester, once a quarter, however that works out for you in your particular situation. But we really recommend that you stay current with them as far as how everything is going. Also on the Postdoc Scholars website, we have a list of internal and external resources. And these were put together by Virginia, who did one of the previous workshops. And she did a fantastic job of scouring both Baylor and the internet at large to find resources that meet each of these NPA core competencies. So on the website, as you can see, those are divided up by the 6 core competencies. And then when you click on those, you will get a Word document that Virginia put together further organized by the subcategories underneath those competencies. So for everyone, when you've got your list of places to improve from your IDP, you can bring that straight to this list of resources and go directly to the area where you need more assistance, and you can see what resources are available. I should say, and I think I've told some of you this before, a list like these can never, of course, be complete. We know that there are more resources out there that we have not been able to find. And so if you run across a resource that you think would be helpful to other postdocs, just shoot me an email anytime and let me know what you found and where you think it might be a good fit on in this structure. And we would love to share that with other postdocs so that they can get some help as well. Alternatively, if you go through this list, maybe there's an area that you would like some assistance and you don't find anything in this list that's helpful, or maybe you just need more after you've gone through those resources. Let us know that as well, and we would be happy to work with you to help you find some more resources. We are constantly searching for more to include, but if we want it to be as complete and as helpful as possible. So if you do not find something that you need, please do let us know so that we can work with you to help you find the stuff that you need. All right, and with that, we got through this a little more quickly than I anticipated that we might. Going forward, if you have any questions, I'll certainly open the floor for those here in just a second. One thing that I would like to ask of you that are on the call right now is if you have ideas for future workshop topics, please let us know. We are considering doing an NIH K99/R00, the Kangaroo Grant workshop, if we have interest in that. So if that's something that you're interested in, please let us know. Also, we got a suggestion at one of the previous sessions for some development assistance on writing your teaching or research statements. That's something that we're thinking about. But if you have any other ideas, please feel free to either let me know here or send me an email sometime, and we can talk about that. All right. So with that, I will open the floor if there are any questions. Feel free to either unmute and ask a question or drop it into the chat. Okay.
I have an idea to share. I'm trying to formulate a question, but a potential future workshop topic would be potentially on job talks.
Okay.
So that's something I'm perfectly comfortable, and I'm sure many postdocs are very comfortable making a lecture on their science topic, but all the other stuff. How do you? What else are you supposed to say? How do you convince them that you're a good teacher? How much do you emphasize the undergrad versus the grad? And this may vary from department to department, but as much as that can be addressed at the postdoc level, that would be good.
That's a great idea. Okay, great. Thank you, Don. Great idea. Other questions or ideas? I know this may be the kind of thing that you don't have a question until you get into it and spend some time working with it. That may prompt further questions. All righty. Well, I don't see any other questions, and so I think I will go ahead and end the presentation, and that will give everybody time to get back to all the other things that you have to do on a Wednesday morning. But thank you all very much for being here. I really appreciate it. I hope that this has been helpful. And like I said, if you have any questions or ideas for future topics or resources that you would like to see our office offer, please feel free to get in touch anytime. I will leave the chat, I'll leave the Zoom meeting open for just a little bit in case you have other questions, if you want to stick around. Otherwise, thank you very much and hope you have a great rest of your day. We'll see you next time.